Hey, before we get started, a quick listener note. This episode of Until All Are Free features conversations about the sexual exploitation of the Badi people of Nepal. I want to encourage you to care for your well-being and use discretion when deciding whether to listen in. This is Until All Are Free. I'm your host, Preston Goff. I've said it before, but I'm still learning so much about the issue of human trafficking around the world. Trafficking is so complex and so situationally unique that it seems as if a lifetime of focus on the issue would still leave gaps in my understanding of it. A few months ago, I received an email with a draft of a book. It's called No Longer Untouchable, a story of human trafficking, heroism, and hope. It was written by Sarah Davison-Tracy alongside Devisara Hannah Badi, and it chronicles the experiences of the Badi people of Nepal through the lens of 4 young women who were trafficked to brothels in nearby India. The book gripped me with just absolutely shocking stories of exploitation that were made possible by these deeply ingrained cultural beliefs and practices that continue to see an entire people group treated as less than human. No Longer Untouchable shares horrifying and yet hopeful stories of young women overcoming unimaginable odds to survive the culture of exploitation that imprisoned them. This is heavy, heavy content, but it's also deeply hopeful and inspiring. And I'm excited to share that joining us today on the podcast are both Sarah and Hannah, together to share about the reality of trafficking in Nepal and the launch of this book, the first English language book about the Badi people ever written. Well, I'm so grateful to be sitting virtually, as it is these days in the days of the COVID pandemic, right? It's become so normal to have digital conversations, and I'm thankful for the gift that is, because I have across from me and halfway across the world, both Sarah Davison-Tracy and Hannah Badi. Hannah, you're joining us from Nepal, right? Can you tell us a little bit about where you're at and what city? And
Sure. Hi, I'm Hannah, and I'm from Nepal, and now I live in Kathmandu, but originally I'm from Surkhet, West Nepal.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long have you been in Kathmandu?
It has been already like 15 years I've been in Kathmandu. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And then Sarah, I'd love for you to introduce yourself as well and tell me where you're at and how you spend your time these days.
Oh, wow. What a great question. So I'm in my home, and I have a little cozy home office where I spend most of my days working and connecting with people around the world and writing books and just doing this work to try to put up the mic to the mouths of people I love, to be able to share their stories about what really matters to them, about what we can really do together to make a difference and to make life better.
So that is what has really joined us together in conversation today. I, a few months back, had this great opportunity to have an email land in my inbox, and inside that email was a PDF of a book that was soon to be released. It's called No Longer Untouchables, and I devoured the content, and it was such a humbling experience for me to sit with it and to really try to process the events that unfolded in the book, but also to really just let my mind and my soul really wander and take up space with these stories. So I want to hear a little bit from you about, what does it mean to be Badi? Tell me about your people. Tell me about the things that you love and the things that are challenging for your people.
okay, sure. So can I start?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. So in Nepal, we have caste system, So we have like categories like high caste, low caste, and very low caste. But like there is a 126, categories in Nepal. So Badi people are low. We call Badi people are lower of the low. So because Badi people were like 300 years back, they were like a entertainer. They play music. They were like dancing.
The history of the Badi people is one that is rooted in an understanding of the caste system of Nepal. Within Nepal's caste system, the lowest societal ranking was reserved for the Dalits, and of the Dalits, the Badi people were the lowest of the low. Often referred to as the dust of the earth, this people group was not allowed to own land and were considered untouchable or unpure by higher castes. Despite this, the Badi were also once known for their role in the entertainment of royalty. The Badi were treasured for their music and dancing and often performed for kings and those in the highest castes. This incongruous reality that saw the Badi esteemed for their artistic ability and yet banned from normal societal practices because of their perception as impure has persisted to the current day. Throughout the 1990s and early 2000s, the monarchical system of Nepal began to face intense opposition. It was eventually replaced by a democratic system in May of 2008. As the monarchy crumbled, so too did the Badi people fall further. With no options for work, the Badi were forced to beg or perform dances for food. Over time, prostitution would come to be a primary source of income for many Badi families. And that's a choice that really was no choice at all.
Slowly, the Badi women, they get started. They started realizing that, okay, I think this is not enough. So when they go to the villages to ask food, and then man, when they go for a dance, for like a, it's we call puja, and it's a in English we call the worshiping God. So they when they go there, and because Badi women were so beautiful, because they entertain king, obviously entertain, the king, he always they always take care of our Badi girls, and they wear good clothes, they were beautiful. And so because of that, so many mans, they started, like taking advance of Badi women's. And they asked, like, if you have a, like a sex with me, I'll give you a food. So this is how it started, then. And Bahari women, they figured out, okay, I think this is a good idea. So we used to, sell ourselves with king, and like now there's no king, then it's okay to sell ourselves with other people also. And this is how prostitution is started in Badi community. So in a villages, I was growing up, I also saw that when we go to the market, or like when we try to go school, or when we go to like like in somewhere, the people, they always like mad with us. They always say like, why you are here? If you touch us, like that we're gonna kill you. Those kind of word we used to hear.
Hannah, can you tell me, as you grew up as Badi, how did this reality for the Badi people like really affect you? Do you remember like certain experiences that were just like exactly what you're talking about in terms of this people group that once like served kings, were so artistic and like creative, and were known for dance, are now being exploited in just heartbreaking ways?
Yeah, sure. So growing up in that environment, in a village, where our sister were like already sold out. My friend, like my own friends, like were like, they were 9 years old, 9 to 10 years old. They were sold out in front of me. Like they were like, I still remember two of my friends. They were my best friend. We used to play together, like we're very small. And they don't even have their first period, and then suddenly one day I saw that they were like wearing good clothes, and I asked them like, where are you going? They were crying. They were like saying, we don't want to go, but their parents were so happy. And then like my friends, their own sister, she was a brothel owner, and she was selling them. And then I asked, like, you're going with your sister? And they were like, yeah, we're going with our sister, but like, we don't want to go. And I still remember that they were so crying, and then they forced them to, they put them on a bus, to go to India. And like that was kind of like a very very like a like a sad moment for me. Like it was kind of I got anxiety. Growing up in the villages is like, obviously we prepare ourselves to go one day in a brothel for sure, because there was no other dreams, because we saw like sisters were coming, back to villages from brothels. They were wearing good clothes, they were eating good food, and like they were looking beautiful, and they were also feeding their like whole family. So I still remember one time, one of my sisters, like some tractor drivers, they tried to rape her. And then like, and I was so mad. And then I said like, okay, we're going police station. And we went to police station. I bring my sister and I talked to her. And because I was like kind of that time I started like understanding, that this is not a right things, and then so we went in a police station, and I put a case, and I said like, I talked to police, and I said, um so this man tried to rape my sister. He touched, like so badly to her. She was so small. And then he was like, yeah, this is like really bad. I mean, so we can put him in a jail, like, so I get so excited. And he asked me, and he said like, what's your name? I said like, so my name is, I mean, my real name is Devisara Badi, so I said, my name is Devisara Badi. And then suddenly he changed, and he said like, oh, so you're from that village, so why you guys are here? I said like, someone tried to rape my sister, that's why I'm here. And he said like, you guys, this is your job, so I think he didn't give you enough money, that's why you are here, so you want to put him in a jail. And like literally he asked me, he said like, so we're not receiving your case, so just go home. So this is, I mean, very new, like a story. This is 2022 now, so the people, they talk about, like going to the moon, like uh, I mean, they're talking about like, I mean, science and so many things, but like now we don't even get basic human right. One child can't, get the like the basic right
Yeah,
also.
it's I think you're right. Like what you said about, it's 2022. There are people talking about becoming tourists to space,
Yeah.
and yet on our own planet, these stories of exploitation, they didn't happen in the past and have stopped now. They're still happening, and the body are still experiencing this like horrendous dehumanization. Sarah, I wonder, will you talk to me a little bit about what it was like for you to encounter this information?
Yeah, for me, there was a really profound, it's like a reality check or a connection that happened when Hannah and I were having a conversation, and she was talking about how, I mean, we have a line in our book where we talk about one by one by one, my friends, my sisters, girls in my neighborhood, in my village, in my community were disappearing. And for me, I had this moment where I live in Denver, Colorado, and had this moment where I was thinking, man, that reality of literally one by one by one. What if that was not only the reality, but as Hannah talks to me and her sisters talk to me, it's not only just the reality, but it becomes acceptable and the norm. And
yeah, across like all systems of government that, you know, I think in the West, like we take for advantage this notion that like we're protected by law, and we can't imagine like a people group not being protected by law. I mean, maybe that's not the full truth, right? I mean, I think that I definitely say that from a place of privilege. But yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I mean, there's been, to use that roller coaster kind of analogy again, there have been moments where, you know, one of the tenets, the pieces that all of 5 of these sister storytellers wanted to say was, these stories are true. Do not embellish one single thing. You only write what is true. And I kept thinking, people are not going to believe that this is not embellished. Like, these stories seem so horrifying at times and so unjust and bad break after bad break. There were some moments where I was thinking, you know, we keep saying these stories are true. 100%. What is the word satya? Satya, Hannah in Nepali? 100% satya is 100% true in Nepali. And I kept thinking, oh, I don't really want to make the case that it's true because it's so sad, so heartbreaking to me that it's true. So there have been those moments, but then when I talk about the roller coaster, the rise in me of this roller coaster, this rise of hope that you led this whole conversation with, Preston, was also one of the tenets of my sisters, which was they were just wanted to say, Sarah, we want to tell these stories so that no matter how dark the day, and someone that is reading our book, reading our story, that we can be bearers of hope.
Yeah.
That we can have had these horrendous experiences. And I mean, that is not even, I don't even think there's a word to describe these experiences that they have had. And they kept saying, but it is, the story is never over. Hope is never gone. And for these young women, my young sisters, for me to hear the details, the gory, gritty, most evil, despicable stories of hell from their mouths, not of someone they know, but of their own experience. And then for them to say, we are going back to that darkness to tell that story so that we can bring light and hope to others, was absolutely jaw-dropping for me.
Yeah. I think there's something that, if I can just confess to you both, right? I mean, I think I hesitate to even say that I found it shocking to read that book. One, because that word fails me. It's not enough, right, to explain the experience of reading that. But 2, because I think that I'm weary of a culture that consumes content for the sole purpose of being shocked. My hope would be that anybody who picks up the book would experience that shock, because I think that can be a right and good reaction, but then would not let like the name of the body people disappear from their mind. That they would become like bearers of that message with these young women, with you, Hannah, and your sisters. Because I think it's so horrendous that the world needs more people to carry it. And I wonder, Hannah, if you might introduce us to your sisters. Tell us a little bit about these women whose stories you have so beautifully helped to capture in the book.
Yes. So there is like I mean, we're like five sisters that we have shared our story. Without my sister's story, my story is never, enough. I mean, it's not. I mean, not finished that,
Yeah, it's not complete.
So because they are connected, and then and then I talked to my all of my sister, and they were like, yeah, sure, because my sister, and there's a like a name that's her name is Mina, that so I asked her, and I said like, is that okay to share your story? And she was like, sure, I would love to share my story because I'm safe now. I'm happy. I have peace. I live in safe place.
Yeah, I spent much time with Mina's story, and I know a bit about just from what you've written about what occurred in her life. But I wonder if you just tell us a little bit about the circumstances of her exploitation and how she ended up in India. If I remember, she was present on GB Road, right?
Yes,
Yeah, can you
and
tell
meet it.
us just a little bit about that and like how Mina was trafficked there and how long she was there and just a little bit
Yes.
about her circumstance?
Yes. So my sister, when my sister was, my sister was small, and so she, because obviously our family was very poor, and my sister, she used to go like, sometime is my mother's parents' place, sometime in like like villages, one house to another house, and one day that one of our relatives. So and my sister, she went, like obviously we anyone can trust our relatives, right? So and then he take her with him, and then
At the age of 9, Hannah's sister Mina was seeing the toll that it took on her parents to provide for her and her siblings with so little available for food and necessary care. So she had an idea that it might be helpful if she went to stay with her grandfather for a time. It would be one less mouth to feed at the very least. One day, a distant family relative came to the village and heard Mina discussing this plan with her mother and said, "Oh, hey, what a coincidence. I'm heading to the town of Sirket, which is very close to your grandfather's village. You can come with me and I'll take you to him." They departed together on a tractor bound for her grandfather's village, and that would be the last time that Mina would see her family for several years. With her stomach full of a traditional spicy milk chai, Mina began to get very sleepy and fell asleep on the tractor only to wake up and discover that she wasn't at her grandfather's home. She was in northern India, in the house of a strange family. She had been trafficked out of the country for the purpose of labor and sexual exploitation. This would only be the beginning of Mina's experience of exploitation. She would, by means of intervention by her father, be rescued from these first traffickers in India. But the difficulty of life in their village made her vulnerable to re-exploitation, and Mina eventually found herself re-trafficked on the infamous GB Road in New Delhi, India. Mina would spend 12 years on GB Road apart from her family, who all the while had wondered what had happened to her and would eventually come to search desperately for her. In fact, they were a part of her rescue team once more. I won't go into detail about her exploitation here, but will say that the experiences that Mina retells in her portion of the book are some of the most dire and dehumanizing accounts I've ever heard.
So then we're looking for our sister, like we couldn't find her. Then finally, we thought that she's died because she used to go in a jungle, and we thought like maybe tiger eat her, like maybe some wild animal eat her. So we thought that she died, but still we're praying, still we're hoping she's gonna come back. If she's alive, she's gonna come back someday. So and then suddenly then after like long after like um 2 or like 5 or 6 years maybe, then we figured out she's in India. So when we rescue our sister, then I saw her. She can't even like recognize me, because when she was lost, I was very small. I was very small, and And I also couldn't recognize her. And I said, like, why you have so many scars in your body? And she said, like, I reject them to work, you know. And they put that they put, like, they cut my body, and they put chili powder on my, like, and my on my body. And like, and then I screamed. It was so painful. And then I was ready to work, because of I feel like they're gonna give me a more pain. But the good news is, like, my sister was rescued, and now she's in a good place, and she's living good life. And she's married now. She gave her one boy, baby boy. His name is Davin, and like, I asked my sister, so one day I asked my sister, like, do you want to do some plastic surgery for this, all your scars? Because I think there are so many options that you can remove your scars. And my sister said, like, no, I don't want to remove my scars. Every time when I saw my scars, I remember those sisters who are in a brothel.
Yeah.
This is not only
Yeah.
one story. There are many story of like this. And like, so we have a five sisters story in this book, and you can read more, because this is only one sister's story, and there are like more sisters story in the book also.
So Hannah, I know that you're young, but you it seems like have just had your hands in so many different amazing projects and different opportunities where you're intentionally like lifting your culture and your country up. I think I've marveled with Sarah so many times together about just who you are in your spirit. And I think the first time that we ever met, you told me that you were interested in being the Prime Minister of Nepal. And so anytime I introduce you or talk about you to anyone, I'm always like, yeah, and she's going to be the Prime Minister of Nepal someday, because I really believe it. But I want to hear a little bit about what you're up to now.
Yes, sure. So, as I said, like, we were, I mean, by the people, like, especially, like, they were not getting education. The children were like for sale, we're for sale. So, and that's why I'm fighting for it. And I'm like, sometimes I feel like, why, mommy, you just only young? I'm young. I want to get older, because in Nepal, like,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
were young,
yeah.
the people, they didn't trust. They say, like, you're too young to do many things. So, and it feels like, okay, I have to do, like, I have, like I said, like, I have a fire in my heart that I really want to save the life. I want to help them. So that's why, that, I'm grateful to venture to an organization in US. They helped me to open one company. It's called Himalayan Entrepreneur Resources. In a shortcut, it's called HER. Obviously, HER means, sisters, right? So, now, like, my company, we're helping them to give them, like, education about health and hygiene also, okay, because in a Badi community, like, they have so many health issues because they can't go hospitals. So doctor, they don't take care of them, like, nicely, because obviously they are, and also, like, they're suffering from, like, a disease, like, HIV, many things. And so, and they don't have money to go to hospital and buy medicines, and they died. They died when they are pregnant, when they died when they give birth, they die when they're, suffering from some disease, because they can't go to the hospital. That's why her company, we decided to help them to in a
Yeah,
medical sector also.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I was just making a mental note to go and Google Himalayan entrepreneurship resources, and I found a video, and so I'll make sure to share that with our community online.
Yeah,
And
sure.
yeah, so we have about 5 minutes left. Sarah,
Sure.
I wanna throw it back to you, and I just want to hear about the launch of the book and how we can access it and how we can take part.
Yes, that's the fun stuff to talk about, right? The book that we have been working on together, Hannah, for 7 years now is finally going into print. And it by the time this podcast launches, it will be available on Amazon and on my organization called Seeds of Exchange, our website. And our passion really is to find as many connections and opportunities and ways to not just sell this book to folks and to share this book with folks, but to be able to sit in conversation with people, whether that it's in their churches or in their universities or on virtual retreats or conferences that people are wanting to gather to learn about human trafficking, to learn about what we can do together. So we, Hannah and I, would love to just open invitation for folks to let us know if they have any communities that we can come in person would be the dream, or like I said, virtually or on a phone call and just have some conversations. We also, another thing that is really important that Hannah and I have talked about over the years is, to really our hope as people read these stories. It's not an easy invitation, but I believe it will be the most transformative one. And that is to read it in a way that you pause every so often to ask, how does this story connect with my own? Whether it's maybe you're a little low on hope and Hannah or her sisters gives you a bit of hope. Or maybe there's a place of pain in your life, something that happened when you were younger, and watching how our heroic sisters navigate and tell the truth and don't go it alone. These women and their community inspire me all the time about how to navigate life together. And I think the harder life is, the more we need each other. And I believe that though these stories are really, really gut-wrenching at times, there is this thread of sisterhood and brotherhood and this sense of profound connection that we get. We have the chance, the gift to live with as we go through our lives that I believe could really be a light in people's individual stories.
Yeah, so it's in that spirit that we've had this conversation, and I'm just so excited to get to share this book as it launches into the world. No Longer Untouchable. We'll be sharing all the links to it on our social channels, on our website, here in the podcast feed. But you'll just want to stay tuned in to what these two wonderful ladies are involved with in the story that they're helping to share. So we'll be doing everything we can here at the Exodus Road to make that happen. Sarah and Hannah's book, No Longer Untouchable, A Story of Human Trafficking, Heroism, and Hope, is available now on Amazon. I've linked to it in the show notes of this episode, and we'll be sharing about it on our social and blog channels at the Exodus Road in the next month as well. I've read this book, and I want to encourage you to do so as well. The Badi need the world to know their story. The first step to empowering change in the systems of exploitation in our world is understanding the realities of the exploited, and No Longer Untouchable is one important way that you can begin to do just that. I also want to make you aware of the organization that Hannah founded, Himalayan Entrepreneurship Resources. HER is an empowerment initiative in Nepal that gives health, safety, and autonomy to marginalized women so that they live free from sexual exploitation and abuse. Visit venture.org/womens-empowerment to learn more. Thanks for listening to this episode of Until All Are Free. Until All Are Free is a podcast by the Exodus Road, and we're a nonprofit with a vision for a world in which humans are never bought, sold, or exploited. We disrupt the darkness of modern-day slavery by partnering with law enforcement to fight human trafficking and crime, by equipping communities to protect the vulnerable, and by empowering survivors as they walk into freedom. Learn more about our work by visiting theexodusroad.com. Until All Are Free is hosted by me, Preston Goff, and the music you're about to hear was produced and generously donated by City of Sound. Thanks for listening.